JR, good news that Dylan and also Ty will come back into the lineup.
Yeah, very good to have both those guys back. But in saying that, we lose Keanu through concussion protocols. So, but back to Ty and Dylan, both have had a good couple of days of practice up here in Cairns.
Can you explain the Keanu situation? When did he sort of start realizing he had some issues?
During late in that game in Tassie, obviously some type of head knock. So then, due to the protocols and actions that need to be taken post game, he's being evaluated and he needs to go in protocol, and he'll certainly miss Thursday's game.
Can you tell me what your reaction was to Sunday's game from pretty much the onlooker? You were very unlucky. I mean, the effort was there. You were so close. One basket probably nailed it for you. How much confidence do you take out of that performance, hoping that you can, repeat it tomorrow night?
So what I take out of that is the way we responded to the lackluster effort that we had on Friday night. So there's a lot of good things that come out of that as we evolve, as we're juggling like our roster in and outs at this point in time. We need to keep growing. What's fantastic is the young group, the core, Henschel, Pepper, Almanza are getting great reps against some very good teams so early on in the season. So they're getting a good understanding what like championship level teams look like.
And last one, just Dylan Windley. So he's had the ankle, now the Achilles. It's been very interrupted. Are you confident now that he can get a bit of a run on and get some games one after the other?
Very, in the fact that we play Cairns tomorrow and then we get a 9-day break before our next game against New Zealand. So I think that is, a good time frame for him to get his body right, where he feels confident within our group and gets like consecutive practices for multiple weeks would be really good.
I'll jump in. How do you replace Keanu, John? What's your structure going to look like without him out there?
Yeah, so like when you're without Dylan and Ty, it has to be a collective effort. As you saw Keanu against Tasmania, 14 rebounds. We know that Dylan will give some relief on the glass, but then Etan, Wags, David Quera, but then also like Ty Webster. We need our guards in there as well. Just not expecting our bigs to get that done. So it needs to be a collective because what Keanu brings to our team, not one person is just going to replace that.
And we've seen how much you missed Ty with his energy and Dylan with his rebounding. Having both of them back at the same time, like how damaging has it been not having those two together with the energy that they bring for this team?
Yeah, and that's like when we put a roster together, you're always looking at the perfect moments and how it can all collaborate and come together. I think over the last couple of games, you've just seen the importance of Ty Webster and the way that he can get downhill and live in the paint, where that will give Bryce some relief in those responsibilities because we've been asking a lot of him in these last couple of games.
And when you look at Dylan specifically, we've seen him in patches just be unbelievable so far. Is his body able to continue doing that? And Achilles can be grumbly a lot of the time. So, are you confident that was just a minor thing and that he'll be able to explode with his leap?
Yeah, look, I'm confident because he's like diligent with his rehab, and Dan Webster, our physio, that's where I get the confidence in the way that they both approach that. And just the way us as a group has approached and tried to manage Dylan through this, but it will be very nice to have him on the court.
How do you reflect on the fact that the Sydney game and the game against Tassie, both of them led late, both of them lost ultimately, and you put a big focus on that over pre-season to fix that part of your game? How do you reflect on the way you've closed out games?
Yeah, look, great question. And what I would say is it's easy to reflect in those last minutes or last possessions, but last year we did a great job of closing out quarters. We have yet to do that this year at the level that we did did last year. So although, we're very mindful at the end of the game, there are other things throughout the game that we can hopefully manage a little bit better as well.
So does that come down to the consistency in quarters? Like you held Tassie to 9 in the first quarter, then you can only score 13 yourself in the second. And that's been a bit of a trend. You've had big quarters and poor quarters. Is that why when it gets late into quarters or late into games, you're not necessarily able to maintain your standards?
Well, we'll find out once we get to participate with a full roster. But I touched on it before, like with Bryce, we're demanding of him, like we obviously want his scoring ability, but then his playmaking ability is imperative when Ty is out of the game. So now having someone like Ty throughout the game to give Bryce some relief in all of those responsibilities, I think will allow him to get back to his brilliance at the end of games.
So you've been asking too much of Bryce having multiple roles, ball handler and scorer at the same time.
Like absolutely, and the other component to this, like I think we're seeing growth in both Henschel and Pepper, but like as I talked about before, Melbourne and Tassie, like championship level teams. So those guys like got a good dose and understanding of what it's like to play against that level. But to expect them to, take the load off of Bryce, it's all a work in progress and growing. But Ty is a key component to allowing Bryce that freedom.
You want to jump in, Tom?
Yep, I'll jump in. JR, you said a couple of weeks ago before the Sydney game that was sort of a litmus test for your team early in the season, and things have not gone particularly well since then. A couple of close losses in that one, as you said, sort of unspirited performance. Do you think it's not you're not far off those top teams, despite sort of being 1 and 3?
Look, absolutely. That's why I'm certainly looking at it when we went down to the wire with Sydney, also Tassie, and as Craig mentioned, we had leads late in the game, and there's lots of things you can look at throughout those games where if we just do it a little bit better, we're probably looking at a different result and a different record right now.
Just one on Bryce. There was some discussion around clubs having reached out to him. He's out of contract this year. Have those conversations between the Wildcats and him started about a new contract, or how do you approach that with someone like him?
Oh, look, that's a private matter, and that's between Bryce and the club as far as where that's all at.
Sure. Thanks, mate.
JR, just very quickly, some have said, we've seen this script before, as in you had a bit of a rough start last year and then you got it together. Is there anything that you can see that was happening last year that's happening again, or can you correlate anything between your start to last year and this year, albeit very early?
Look, there's obviously some characteristics, and the most common one is just the result itself. As I talked about last year, we weren't playing great. I would say at this moment, we're not playing great. I can say like we haven't had our roster. We've had guys in and out. But, we're out there playing the games. We're getting tested. And, once we get it really figured out and moving forward and have like a lot more players available, I'm comfortable and confident with this roster.